Welcome back to the Cineposium podcast, where each week members or collaborators of Cineposium curate films for remote viewing, and then talk about those films on this podcast. In this week's episode, Reed Williams and first-time guest to the show, Allen Fabbi, who is not a UCLA CMS graduate student, but is a cinephile who studies business analytics, discuss the Coen Brothers' 1998 classic, The Big Lebowski. Enjoy the conversation.
All right, well, this evening I am joined by my dear friend, Allen Fabbi. Born in Logandale, Nevada. We became friends in Salt Lake City. He's my movie buddy. We went to see like every movie together, you know, from like 2016 to 2019 before I moved. So I couldn't think of a better person. As much as we've watched The Big Lebowski, I couldn't think of a better person to come on the podcast and have you talk about it. So yeah, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, no problem at all. For me, as I thought about like our friendship, what movies mean for our friendship, I realized like I was into movies before we met. And it's something like I have these pieces, but where I really got to see film as a bigger picture was thanks to you. Like, I think I owe you a ton of credit because I remember specifically it was 2016 and you were going to go see Moonlight. And you're like, hey, man, do you want to go check this movie out? I knew nothing about it, but went, loved it, of course, because it's such a beautiful movie. And it was one that I think really built our friendship. And it was just going, or as we're talking about what movies mean to friendships, it's a way of building it where if you have similar interests or even different opinions on a movie, you can still have that person or people to talk to, which I think is really cool. And something whereas I've seen your love of movies grow, right? That's, 4 or 5 years ago. It's really cool to see where it's taken you of just something that you do as like an interest to something you're focusing more on and going to school for. So I do have to say, man, I'm super proud of you and everything you've done, because it is a big jump to do. And yeah, like you've really taken every opportunity you can. So I just want to say I'm super grateful for you for introducing me to that bigger world and to see everything that you've accomplished with it.
Wow, man, I'm so flattered. Thank you for saying that, dude. And that means a lot to hear you say that. And yeah, I think us going to movies together helped me stay interested in it, honestly, to have someone to talk to about it. And it's like, I might not have gone to school if we hadn't have been so into it and had seen so many. And like, I feel like I've heard you say that before, like, oh, dude, I didn't really start seeing movies as much until we started seeing them together. And that was honestly a big inspiration for me to go to school. Like, I love the connection I find with people through movies, and that's something I want to like keep doing. Like, that's the main reason I want to kind of do this stuff, is to really just build connections with other people, So like that really means a lot that you say that, man. I'm getting kind of emotional for sure.
Yeah, no problem at all. And as I'm kind of thinking about it, like, and we've kind of bounced around the idea of what movies mean to a community, and as like being able to have something like the Salt Lake Film Society for us, where there was a group of like-minded people, I don't think I fully appreciated, of being able to volunteer and being able to be around it just in a place where you, even if you're not friends with people, it's kind of like we talk about that there's those connections, that there's people you're familiar with, so you feel safe with, that there's these common interests, there's these little things where no one's going to be a real jerk to you when you're at your local art house theater, hopefully, right? Like where us, like we had, all sorts of like nutritional yeast and things for popcorn that you just don't get everywhere.
Right. That's so true.
And I'm kind of like thinking through what film can mean for friendship, or just as a sense of community. It's just being around it and getting involved in any way possible. Because even doing things like for AFI and helping with their screening, like I wasn't talking to anyone, but I felt like I was a part of something bigger than just me viewing these things. I was really trying to help spread any sort of message or goodwill to people.
But yeah, no, you've already brought up some like super great points about friendship and stuff. So I guess just to bring the Big Lebowski into the conversation, like we were kind of texting back and forth what we wanted to talk about. And so, yeah, I'm just, I'd be curious for you to sort of explore further about, I guess, how like movies and just media of all kinds kind of brings people together, and like maybe how that specifically relates to the Big Lebowski,
Yeah, I was trying to think about this today of like it's one of those things for our friendship where it's just always been there. I couldn't tell you the first time that we watched it together. I know we've gone to a few different screenings and we've watched it multiple times, so I couldn't say the first, but to kind of talk about media and things, we kind of hinted at it earlier with talking how these are our people, like these are the people we have similar interests, and it's like where we're all at this movie, so there's enough of a check where this lines up, or we're all at the same concert. And I think that was something where I think like after this situation where we are in real life to try and build those friendships, but it just seems it's just weird, right? Like it's just not something where you want to go up to someone like make that like our society isn't like that.
Right. It's, you can't just be like open with people the first time you meet them. You have
exactly.
to kind of play it cool or something.
It's such a weird thing to do. Like a lot of us who are into movies, music, kind of this media and culture things, we're all fairly like introverted people. Like we all have these same interests, but everyone has such strong opinions and it means so much to them that differing opinions can just be like the biggest thing. Where Sum 41's Chuck is their best album, it makes someone like my worst enemy, like, or my best friend.
Right. No, I hear what you're saying. That's so interesting. It's like, these kind of events, like even if we are there alone, it's like potentially there are friends around us, and like it's almost like Shanice and I were rewatching the Big Lebowski. Or sorry, not the Big Lebowski. We were rewatching The Big Sick. Different Big. We were rewatching The Big Sick, and there's that great scene where Kumail's trying to show Emily some like old Vincent Price movie, and she's like, "Is this your compatibility test?" Like with some people in The Big Lebowski, it's like totally that thing of where when you're dating, you want to introduce the person you're dating to the stuff you like to see if they like it, and it's the same thing with friends. It's just, I feel like with friends, it's less the compatibility test and more like a launch pad into that friendship.
100%. It just is kind of one of those things where having just that community around, where even now when the few times, thankfully, I'm in Salt Lake where theaters are open and I can go see a movie, just having that camaraderie of a couple other people who I don't even see. Like I've hardly seen anyone. I've just been in the same room as like two other people watching a movie, and it's an entirely different experience because everyone's on that same page. There's this connection where we all just know to shut up and take in whatever we're watching. And it's such a cool thing and such a weird thing where it's one of the it's what I've missed most during this time.
No, I totally hear that. And man, it makes me think that, I know I've definitely been in some discussions where we've talked about like, man, it's going to be weird to go back out in public when we can. Like even when we can, it's going to take getting used to. But I guess movies will be a great way to warm up to that, because you're not really forced to interact with someone, but you're in the same space as someone. And, once you're vaccinated, you don't really have to feel as paranoid or anything. So you can just enjoy being in the same place as someone. And if it's something like, a rep screening of The Big Lebowski, kind of like what we're saying, you're in good company. But just, to bring it around, I guess, to our personal relationship, it's so crazy to me that you said earlier you can't remember the first time we watched it together, because now I can't actually either. Like, I feel like even before we watched it together, you kind of knew that it was a movie I loved, because I kind of got into it shortly before I went through my divorce, which like you were front and center for, you know what I mean? Like I started getting obsessed with that movie probably like 2014, 2015, and then got divorced in 2016. So it was like, it was really fortunate because like I got into the movie late. It's not like I've been a urban achiever like since I was like 14, you know what I mean? Like I watched the movie when I was probably a teenager and I was like, that was weird. I guess it was cool. And then it was just rediscovering it as an adult and being like, holy shit, I love this movie, you know? And all that's just to say, you know, it was such a good thing for me to have in that time of my life. Like, I don't know, it sounds so weird talking about a movie like this, but it really was my comfort food going through that divorce.
Yeah.
And being able to watch it with you, or being able to introduce it to our friends like Cody or Sky or anyone else who hadn't seen it, was like, it was something that brought me joy in like a really dark time in my life, you know?
Yeah, I can see that, because I had seen it before I met you and I knew it, but your love for it, and I don't know if it was just how you talked about it or if we watched it a lot, but that's what made me love it. Like, I don't know if I hadn't met you, if I would love it as much. I definitely need to give you a lot of credit for it. And it's such a weird thing, because it very much is a comfort food. It's a part of like our friendship culture, our friend group culture.
Yeah, like just on that point real quick, like we have a secondhand language of just Lebowski quotes that we'll just say to each other in a situation, and it doesn't necessarily apply to the movie, but it applies to that situation. So you're right, it is part of like our friend culture for sure.
Absolutely. And I quote it all the time. And it's funny, the things where everyone knows the movie, but I'll quote it to like my Mormon family, where my aunt asked me like how I'm doing at Christmas. I was like, you know, strikes and gutters.
How things been going? Oh, you know, strikes and gutters, ups and downs. Sure, I've got you.
And it was like the funniest thing I could have said. But it wasn't. It was just.
And they probably didn't know the reference, right? But it was great. Yeah.
And it is just one of those movies that is so comforting, and such like, it's absolutely a stereotypical like movie bro movie. I'm not going to try and defend that.
Totally.
Like, there's no defending it. It is very much for like a certain. There's a stereotype to it. But when I was, and I mentioned this at least in the Discord for the screen today, when I watched it with the view of friendship, being Donnie Go broke my heart, because they are such a tight group of friends, and watching what Walter will do for those folks or just for like the dude for Donnie, you can tell he loves them unconditionally, just has the weirdest way of showing it.
Yeah, totally. Totally, man. I know it was so cool to think about it kind of through that lens, because it does change how you see it. And just even how, from us talking about like, oh, the Big Lebowski and the theme of friendship, how then we kind of connected it even to our own friendship, into just ideas about friendship and film in general, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the nice common thread to do it. And just kind of on that, and we were texting a little bit about how each of the main groups that are part of the movie that dude deals with are groups of friends for the most part, which I think is the craziest thing. Where you have the Big Lebowski and Brandt, and I was even just like today thinking about what are they like off camera, like what's their, or not, sorry, in the scenes they're not in, like what's their dynamic in real life. That, because if Brandt's aware that there's no money, he's doing it from like a survival perspective, where he can still keep this life, but then there has to be some friend. I don't know. It was like,
dude, that is so true. I never thought of Brandt and the Big Lebowski as friends, but you're totally right, because like Brandt has to know that, because he's like his assistant, and he's just so loyal and dedicated. He's kind of almost like the Mr. Smithers to the Big L's Mr. Burns, you know what I mean? And in a perverse way, even though they're like boss and employee and there's a power dynamic, in a perverse way, they are their only friends, you know? So that's so crazy you bring them up.
No, so there's them, well, and there's like Knox Harrington and Julianne Moore's character, Maud, like their friend, like they have that friendship. They're always, or typically, two people who are being interacted with, and you can see it even. And I was like thinking outside of that friend group as well, it was kind of endearing to see the bartender say that they were sad to hear about Donnie passing, because so it just shows that there are friendships, and this is something I've learned, are people who we don't consider friends, but they're the people who matter in our lives because we interact with them more, even if we despise them or dislike them.
Well, dude, and I
just
think
weird.
that, yeah, it is weird. And I think that interaction part is the key, though. And
Mhm.
and again, just citing this book that I brought up in the intro to the film tonight, the Big Lebowski and Philosophy. It's, this like edited collection of like academics writing about the Big Lebowski. And, one of them, like I mentioned in the intro, does talk specifically about like ancient Greek philosophy of friendship and solidarity. But I mean, there's also essays in here about how like bowling together, even though all these guys are different too, the dude is so different in temperament and in probably personal interests than Walter and then Donnie. But what connects them is the bowling. And they bowl together often. And this book talks about, the movie specifically cites nihilism. And, nihilism being, we believe in nothing, Lebowski. You know what I mean? Just, maybe to be a little bit reductive, that's basically what it is. And, bowling is what to kind of like paraphrase this essay. It's like bowling is what keeps the dude and Walter and Donnie from being nihilists. They have something that they believe in. They have something that brings them community and something that makes life have value as opposed to meaning nothing.
Dude, that is such a cool thing. You'll have to send me the.
Yeah, I'm gonna cite my source because I'm a good grad student. Let me see. That's so that essay is called "Bowling Our Way Out of Nihilism" by Jeffrey Nicholas. And again, it's in this book, The Big Lebowski and Philosophy, which I have greatly enjoyed, given how many times I've seen this movie. It's nice to, even if it seems, and that's, again, it's like, there's part of me where I feel like if I was listening to myself talk, I'd be like, it's such a trivial thing. Like, this is a silly movie, but it does genuinely mean so much to me because of what we're talking about, because it's almost like our bowling. And the funny thing is, we even like to go bowling together too.
We do like to go
separate from the Big Lebowski. Like, we're not in a league. We just like to do it for fun and to go drink beer and you know what I mean. Like,
play darts, like all that.
Yeah. So in a way, I guess we do enjoy bowling, but the Big Lebowski's part of that too. It's all part of kind of the glue that holds friendships together and keeps us from being nihilist and frankly a very fucked up world.
Absolutely. And I think everyone needs their bowling. I am curious, what would you consider our bowling? Because they say to each other, like, fuck it, let's go bowling.
Yeah, because and that's another quote we used to say.
Yeah, just like, fuck it, dude, let's go
guess
bowling.
Just, dude, going to movies, right?
Yeah,
I mean, like, if it was us two hanging out, we'd either be like going to see a movie or going to get a beer or going to get lunch, just hanging out, I guess.
Yeah.
And then, if it's with our larger group, again, just like hanging out in someone's backyard, having a party to celebrate a holiday. I think just finding any excuse to get together is our bowling, I guess.
No, absolutely. And I think it is like, and I'm trying to think on what we've done together on kind of our darker days. And usually it's probably like go bowling or not bowling, go bowling, like go see a movie, go kind of spend some time doing something else, getting out of the house.
Right, pulling a Don Draper, as we also like to call it, maybe skipping work to go see a movie like he did in that show.
If anyone needs a way to take care of themselves, it's skipping work to watch a movie at home or whatever. Like, I highly recommend it.
If you're listening to us, we encourage you to skip work and go see movies. That is self-care. That is mental health. Just pull a Don Draper, okay? Not that he was necessarily mentally healthy, but anyway, we digress.
That's what we're good at. Oh, dude, I am curious too, and do you think that Sam Elliott's character is considered a friend with the dude at the end of the movie? With their I'm just looking at, like, with this lens, kind of evaluating every relationship now.
I think so. I think you could say that. I think and I think with the dude, he's cool if you're cool. I feel like that's the dude's philosophy, is like he's willing to be your friend if you're like a chill person and you want to kick back and have like an oat soda and go bowling, you know, he'll be your friend. So, you know, I do think part of that cowboy kind of idea is maybe a little bit of a contrast to the ideas of friendship, because it's like he's alone, he's on the range, he's picking up all these stories. But then again, I mean, Sam Elliott kills that. I mean, he might be like, I can't say. I was gonna say he might be my favorite character, but I can't say that. But he's so good in that movie, and like he's still a warm and friendly guy, even though he's kind of the lone wolf in the movie up until the end.
For sure. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think he really has a way of kind of sneaking in. And something that I didn't realize till today when I watched it for whatever time this is, and I had the subtitles on my TV because I watched it kind of parallel. And he says the bear eats you. I thought it was the bar.
Dude,
and
me too.
Feel so silly for that.
Well, dude, you know what? Finally, I learned it was just I was watching it with the subtitles on one time. Yeah. I'm like, he's saying bear? There's no way he's saying bear.
He is saying bear really weird. It makes a lot more sense as bear.
Bar.
But sometimes the bar eats you, and I was like, yeah, you can get messed up at a bar like
dude,
that.
I know. I never understood that. I was always just like, that makes sense. Like, that must be an Eastern thing.
It really must.
But dude, I guess just to circle it all back to these ideas about like friendship, and even in my intro, I was like on my bullshit about like Shakespeare, and then this piece about nihilism. It's like there are so many different ways you could read and approach this movie. And just to, you know, also quote another essay from this book, which is, it's called In the Dude I Abide, Being an Achiever at Lebowski Fest by Julie Dufert and Rosaline Lemire Cadu, I'm guessing is how you pronounce that. Basically, they did what they call in cinema studies, like reception studies, where they went, and fan studies, I guess, really too. And so they went to some Lebowski cons and some Lebowski festivals, which, you know, I mentioned in the chat, you and I went to one in Ogden, Utah. You know, it was a smaller one because it was in Ogden, but it was still a lot of fun. Anyway, they went to these events to talk to people who were big fans of the film. And in talking to them, they were trying to figure out exactly what is it about it that people love. You know, what is the key ingredient that draws certain people to the film? And, you know, there's no right answer to this, obviously, but their thinking is that it has to do with the film's use of irony. And they define irony by citing, you know, that philosopher Soren Kierkegaard, who wrote about irony, just to really kind of sum up what his thought of irony is. He defines irony as a common trope used to convey an idea by stating its literal opposite. And they go on to give an example. They say, when the dude hears Walter's dubious plan to steal the ransom money from the Big Lebowski and the kidnappers, his retort is revealing. That's a great plan, Walter. That's fucking ingenious if I understand it correctly. It's a Swiss fucking watch. Obviously, the dude is unimpressed. So, you know, that's just an example of the kind of irony they're talking about. And Kierkegaard goes on to write about how irony kind of reflects the absurdity of life, right? That there's not really any rules to life. It doesn't make sense at all. And so we use irony to cope with that. You know, we state things in its literal opposite because maybe we're not going to get any meaning from that, but we could potentially still find truth from irony. So that's Kierkegaard's whole thinking, right? Yeah. And they connect this to the Big Lebowski because they say that, you know, fans of the film watch it over and over again. And it says that they do it almost like an infinite task to try and uncover new interpretations. you know, whether it's my idea that it's a Shakespearean comedy, or it's someone's idea about combating nihilism, or,
Yeah.
you know, our idea that it's about friendships. Like,
Yeah.
the beauty of the film is that its use of irony gives us the chance to have so many interpretations of it. And like, the plot doesn't make sense. Maybe there's no meaning to it. You know, maybe there's nothing really that deep about it, but it allows us to kind of project those truths onto it. You know what I mean?
For sure. And I think that's what makes it, like you said, a great movie. It is something that I don't think anyone will ever fully understand. And that's why all of us weirdos who love it so much just go to it as like something. And I do think it gives people who are a little lost kind of that meaning. Like, I was reading some articles today, prepping for this, that just talk about how a lot of people, what, like our generation, want to be like the dude, where he's very carefree. He just takes things as they come. And one of the things that I laugh at now in my like more recent watchings of it is how he doesn't even blink an eye when they come in with the marmot and they first smash his message machine. He's just like, hey, this is a private residence, man. Like, he's not even angry. He's just like, hey, if you can just go away, that's all I want. Like, I'm not looking for retribution. And just things like that for me, when I'm now, I don't care what's going on. I just don't want people to bother me. Like, it's those little moments of kind of inner peace where you're just accepting things as they come and trying to like enjoy life for what it is.
No, that's very well said, man. That's very well said.
And philosophy of the Big Lebowski, what do you, and I am curious to your thoughts of, is dudism the religion? Like, there's there's so many names for it, like the Church of Latter-day Dude or whatever. Like,
is that, I've never heard of that one. That's amazing. I didn't know that one existed. Is that one specifically for like ex-Mormons?
Like, I don't know. Let me I'm gonna have to fact check myself.
If not, we can start it, dude. I mean,
yeah, I think it's all part of dudism, but it's just like a nickname for it.
It's the restorationist version of dudism.
For sure. Are there other movies that do get religions or even kind of these followings that people use it as a code for their life? And I will say,
like Vulcan, like the Vulcan kind of language. And I'm not familiar with that. Our friend Alex Alex is a Trekkie. They would have to fill us in on that. But I know that is like, I guess Trekkies and any kind of fandom, I think, the Big Lebowski fandom are called urban achievers, right? So I think urban achievers could comfortably fit in with those other fandoms. There's some different quirks about it for sure, but it does have some of the same kind of patterns and like similarities. And I think that's why those scholars researched it, in that kind of lens.
Yeah, and it's a great lens to look at it through. Yeah, it is just one of those rare things that it happens where people take it as a religion. It's always, I've never fully understood, and maybe you can explain this to me. I don't really know why the dude abides is such a big quote, because it's just something he says at the very end of the movie. Like, I get it as the dude's just gonna be the dude, and that's fine.
Right.
But there's like t-shirts, there's all of these things where I don't get the appeal. Do you see that appeal or understand why it exists?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like the go-to catchphrase from the movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's almost like the person who's seen it maybe like 2 or 3 times, that's the quote they would say. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that as like, oh, you're not as long time a fan of me. But I know what you're saying. It's like the go-to catchphrase from the movie.
It's the hot. Hold on, it's the Hot Topic catchphrase.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. There you
And
go.
it's
There you go.
because I can't gatekeep the Big Lebowski.
No, we
like,
shouldn't gatekeep the Big Lebowski. That is very undude.
that is very undude. But yeah, it's just like, all right, the dude about I don't see.
No,
the
but that's
whole
actually a perfect way to frame it. You're
Yeah.
right. That is the phrase that like corporations like Hot Topics slap onto a t-shirt and then someone like me buys it. Like I have a shirt that says the dude abides.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but I do kind of see the I see what you mean there.
Yeah.
I do like I don't really like it when the dude says the dude abides. I like it when the stranger responds to that after he walks away.
Yeah.
He goes, the dude abides.
I don't know about you, but I take comfort in that. It's good knowing he's out there, the dude, taking her easy for all us sinners. Shush.
That whole quote, I would get it tattooed on my body. Like if I wasn't so scared to get a tattoo.
Oh yeah, I don't blame you.
Remember that time we almost got tattoos?
Yeah,
and I was like, yeah, dude, let's do it. Yeah, dude, let's do it. And then we're like, let's come back.
Yeah, I was definitely the one where I was like, dude, no, I want to do this. We have to do this. They're like $20. We go see it. You have something picked out, and I'm just like, I don't know. So
yeah.
I'm glad that it didn't work out. It's fine by
It's
me.
a great memory, though.
Yes,
We'll have that memory tattooed in our brain at least.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. Well, I think we've had a great chat about this film. Is there anything else you want to mention before we call it good?
Not really. I was trying to think if what I had in my notes about it. Yeah, it's kind of just been it was like little tidbits of trivia that I picked up. Like,
ooh, let's do a trivia section. That sounds fun.
I mean,
yeah. Tell us some of the trivia you found.
So one of the things that I thought was funny or just interesting was that for the role of Bunny, Charlize Theron and Liv Tyler both auditioned.
Oh wow!
For the role of Bunny, which I mean, either would have been great. Like it worked out how it did. I just didn't know
That's
that.
surprising. I mean, they're huge stars.
Yeah, yeah, they're huge stars.
Like the most successful like female actor right now, I would argue.
Yeah, they're so
one
hot.
of the most, at least.
For sure. So that was really cool. Jeff Bridges never smoked a J during The Big Lebowski, and I think everyone's familiar with the story of he would ask the director before scenes if the dude smoked a J before the scene on his way there. So those were the two ones that I just thought was super interesting.
Yeah, and I think I remember you telling me that because then didn't he like rub his eyes or something to make it look like he was?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that. I love that.
It was fun to chat about Lebowski for what it means to us and stuff. It was kind of a all over the place conversation, but so is The Big Lebowski, right? Like,
yes. Dude, that is the perfect way to cap it. So with that, thank you for coming.
Yeah, man. Of course.
That's it for our show this week. Thank you for listening and for your support. Please subscribe to the show on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow us on Instagram at Cineposium and on Twitter at Cposium to keep up with our updates and to keep in communication with us. Until next week, take care, everyone.